Tyler Hamilton. Welcome to the Roadman podcast.
Hey, thanks, Anthony. Good to see you.
It's a pleasure.
How you been doing?
Been good. Been riding the bike, staying fit, a lot of podcasting, not as much cycling as I'd like. Busy. Same story as everyone has. You doing good? You riding the bike much?
I'm here in Missoula, Montana. We got a pretty long winter, and I'm also a stay-at-home dad this year, so it's not much riding. A little bit of running when I can, and get some yoga. But yeah, I'll get out this spring. Start to get out this spring, yeah. But I'm a dad now, and yeah, kind of got the dad bod going.
I don't think we've ever talked about all the way back to the beginning of your journey. How did you make the transition from racing in the US to coming across to Europe?
How did I make the transition?
Yeah, how did it happen for you?
Yeah, for us, I was on the my first year as a pro was in 1995. It was with a team called Montgomery Bell. It was the original postal team, just under a different title sponsor. It was led by this guy named Eddie Borisevich, Eddie B. He lived here. Was American, but he came over from Poland way back when. And he was a real influence. Just a lot of riders in the 80s and early 90s for sure. He was our director, and it was. We raced primarily in the U.S., but maybe about like 20 to 30% of the time over in Europe. We did some trips over there, tour Poland. We did the Teleflex tour in Holland. I think it's under a different name now. Yeah, I was fortunate enough to win that one. And then, the next year it turned into, we got a new title sponsor. We brought in Mark Gorski as the manager of the team, and he brought in the Postal Service in 1996. And again, we were like a domestic team racing probably 60, 70% of the time in the United States. And then we'd jump over to Europe in 96. We did, the Tour of Switzerland. That was super hard. A few other races. Yeah. We did I think it was a Tour of Portugal, which was back then, I think it was like 14 days. We did a lot of tough racing. And then the following year, 1997, Postal came in at the end of the 96 season, they basically upped the budget for the 97 season. And then all of a sudden we were basically a European-based team,
I remember when I was full-time.
A lot of us were really green. So we brought in a lot of talent, let's say that's when George Hincapie came to the team. That's when Adriano Baffi came to the team. I think that's the year Ekimov came to the team. Yeah, he came in 1997, I believe. Yeah. J.C. Robin, French guy, Pascal Durame, another Frenchman, Peter Meinert from Denmark. So yeah, we became, from 96 to 97, we became kind of like an international team.
Yeah. I remember when I was full-time riding the bike, Tyler, I was riding the bike full-time, but if I think back to my mindset then, I never thought I was going to be a legit pro cyclist like you were. That wasn't my mindset. My mindset was kind of more like a student who's gone on a gap year. I was like, okay, I know I'm not good enough to race at World Tour level, so I'm going to see, can I knock 2-3 years out of traveling around with somebody else paying for it and get to ride my bike. Can you remember, if you circle back all the way to the beginning of this professional journey of yours in cycling, what was your mindset like? Were you, I think the kind of Tony Robbins phrase where he has this idea of some people have to succeed no matter what, that they're going to burn the boats, that I'm going to do whatever it takes to be successful in this chosen career. Give us a little peek into your mind back then.
Yeah, no, I was just having fun with it. Yeah, originally I was a ski racer, downhill ski racer. That was my sport. That was my true love. Cycling. I started cycling just to keep my legs in shape for the winter time. I had an accident my sophomore year at University of Colorado. I think it was in 1991 or 1992. I broke my back. When I was in bed for like 6-8 weeks. And, when I got out of bed, they said I could ride a road bike. And, I'd been doing a little bit before that. And I just really got into it. I couldn't ski race that winter. It was the first time, not on skis since I was, probably 3 years old. And, but I kind of got out a lot of anxiety out on the roads outside of Boulder. And little did I know, Boulder is a huge, huge cycling town, way bigger than a ski town for sure. And I just ran into all sorts of folks who were, top amateurs or professionals. And it was a great place to basically learn how to ride a bike and learn the ins and outs of bike racing for sure. So I felt very lucky to be there as I was kind of learning about bike racing. Yeah, I joined the CU cycling team, the University of Colorado cycling team. Won the national championship in 1993, and then that kind of got me a spot on the US national team for 94, and then I was professional in 95. So it happened really fast. I was really green. I was definitely a really green professional, Even in my first tour in 97, I was like, I had a little bit of the, I shouldn't be here.
Imposter syndrome.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And, maybe I should have been, I was really still new at the sport. Just some of the simple things I was still pretty green at.
What was your first impressions of the bunch when you went over to Europe? Was doping a conversation you were aware of in the bunch when you went over initially?
When I went over initially, like in the early years when I was on basically in 95, 96, I was basically on a domestic team that would kind of, jump over the pond and jump in a few races. I'd read, this is way before the internet. So I'd read about doping, a little bit in a magazine in the United States called Velo News. Every once in a while, there'd be a small little blurb, usually in the back of the magazine, but maybe something that happened, but usually not very frequently. Every once in a while you read about it. But the kind of going on the word of the street, I guess, in the States was like, there wasn't doping in the States, but there was possibly doping at the highest level of the sport over in Europe. But, I didn't know. There was kind of rumor about that. But I didn't know. I was young and green and wide-eyed. And did I notice a difference going from the United States racing in the US to racing in Europe? Absolutely.
I'm really excited to announce our show sponsor today is Silca. For those of you who might not know, Silca offers best in the game bike accessories like tools, pumps, plus all your everyday bike maintenance kit like chain wax and even sealant. What sets Silca apart is their commitment to quality, beauty and craftsmanship. Trust me, these products are built to last. I've been replacing my track pump probably on average every 2 years, but my dad has had a Silca track pump since I can remember, and it's still going perfectly strong, almost without a blemish on it. So if you want to spoil yourself, or maybe you want to treat one of your cycling friends, they have so many amazing products over on the Silca website. There's torque wrench sets, bike bags, 3D printed bike computer mounts, and loads of other really cool pieces all over there. And as a Roadman listener, you can get 13% off all Silca products. Just use the code Roadman13 at checkout. Not only does this get you a fantastic deal, but it also lets Silca know that sponsoring this podcast is valuable. Whether you're shopping for a gift or you're treating yourself, Silca has something for every cyclist who hates the throwaway culture and loves quality. So check them out, and don't forget to use the code Roadman13 at checkout. The details are in the description below. From the outside looking in, the US Postal, it looked a lot of fun. It looked like this sort of low budget team of American kids who didn't really know what they were doing that much, going over to Europe, breaking all the rules and mixing it up. Like, what was it? You're the bad news bears. What was the culture like inside the team?
You asked about how we were treated. Definitely, I wouldn't say we were like welcomed with like open arms. The bunch definitely gave us some grief, and a little bit of that. I get maybe a little bit of bullying, for sure. We were an unproven team, and we had all sorts of strange equipment too, and that they like to have fun with that. Yeah, but I think we proved them wrong, over time. Yeah, but I do remember. I think Ekimov took the lead in the prologue or something. I think it was like a race that they used to have called the Mini Libre. I believe it was that stage race, and he had the lead, and we were defending the lead in the early stages and the flatter stages. And I remember the group kind of having fun with us, giving us some giving us some just some jabbing, But yeah, it's all part of it. It's all part of it,
But what was the culture like inside Postal? Like, was it good fun on the team bus? Was there a good laugh? Was it a good group to be around?
Absolutely, yeah. A lot of fun. I don't know. Yeah, we had guys like George, we had guys like Frankie Andreo, who's like the older statesman. We had, Lance, we had young guys like Christian Vanderbilt. And then we had the European guys, and, we had early on Adriano Baffi, he was just a well-respected rider back in, what was that, 1997. Yeah, he'd done a lot of big things. He'd won tour stages, I think, before that. So to have him on our team was huge. Having Akimov on our team was huge, I remember watching him in the tour, like it was called the Tour de Trump. It eventually turned into the Tour de Pont, which raced on the eastern seaboard of the United States. I remember watching him when I was in high school, going down to Boston to watch the final stage and seeing guys like Ekimov, Greg LeMond, who else? Like Bobby Julich. Yeah. When I was just a kid.
It's like a golden era for US cycling.
Those were some good years. Yeah, we had some good talent. We have a lot of good talent now. Tons of good talent now. Yeah. I'd say maybe even better.
What's a big kind of buzz in corporate culture, and I know you're moving into the corporate world at the moment, everything's about culture. What influence does one person have on culture? Like when you look at Armstrong's approach to training, nutrition, competition, is that something that sets the tone culturally for the rest of the team to follow?
Yeah, for sure. He was super focused. He knew what he wanted. He was driven, beyond belief. I thought I trained really hard until I started training with him. What was that? What year was that? I started training with him a lot in like the year 2000. Yeah, a lot. And that's when I realized, I hadn't been training hard enough in the years before. Yeah, very, very disciplined. Yeah, hard. That was one of the hardest years of my life, probably in the year 2000. Yeah, outside of Nice, France, riding in those hills. North of Nice is up, down all day long. Yeah.
Can you remember when you first
but it's fun. Yeah, I learned a lot. Yeah.
Can you remember when you first became aware of doping inside the team?
That was in 1997.
And were you shocked?
Yeah.
Or what was your reaction to it?
Yeah, I was surprised, but then I also over the years had heard those rumors. So yeah, was I shocked that it was on my team? Yeah, I guess. Yeah, I was. And then I think the first time I kind of realized it was, or started to kind of maybe scratch my head, was in, that you'd finish a race and then riders would be heading to the airport and heading home, before the next time they'd kind of get together with a team. Then certain riders on the team were getting handed like little, kind of like a white little lunch bag. Yeah, I didn't know what was in them, but kind of made me scratch my head. Well, what are they getting here? And why wasn't I getting one?
Does that create a little bit of a division between the kind of the cool kids and the other kids that are excluded, where you have a split team almost, with the dopers getting their little lunch bag and then the other guys kind of a little bit in the dark as to what's going on?
Yeah, that's the way it was then, on the 97 Postal team. It was kind of like, at least in the springtime, it felt like it was sort of like the A team and the B team. For sure. And, I think we had that year where they had like 21, 23 riders on the team. We were hoping to get selected for the Tour de France as a wild card. Back then they'd rode 9 guys in the Tour. And so, yeah, eventually, I knew I wanted to make the Tour team, and eventually the doping was introduced to me. Yeah. So
in that period before doping's introduced to you, do you have like almost an ethical dilemma in the period after you become aware of doping, but before you cross the line and take testosterone for the first time? Do you have this period where you're internally debating if this is a good idea or a bad idea, weighing up the pros and cons, or how does that kind of?
I wasn't debating it. I didn't debate it, and I didn't debate it at all until it was presented to me, in my hotel room. I think it was after it was after a stage race in Spain in the springtime. Yeah.
Who
And that's when
presented to you?
a doctor came into my room and talked to me about, what it was like to be like professional, and that I could take care of my body better than I was, taking this little red testosterone pill. And that's kind of how it started, and yeah, he said it wasn't doping. It's for your health. That's what I remember him saying. And then I remember taking it and just kind of wanted to, not to rock the boat. Yeah, you take it and then, you think about the consequences later, I guess.
Was this a team doctor?
Yeah, and then slowly it grew, the doping, it slowly grew, yeah. My first year, 1997, yeah, I doped, very, very little, but that's when I started doping. And then you grew, you got more comfortable with it, yeah. Then all of a sudden, fast forward 1 year, we're in the middle of the Tour de France, and that whole Festina affair blew up. And that's when things got, because before in 1997, it was relatively open. Like teams were bringing it to the races, handing out Geradas to take back home after, to use for training. By then 98 happened, the Festina affair, everything went really like underground, and everything was extremely dangerous after that. I don't think anyone knew how how dangerous what we were doing was, what the consequences were. Yeah. And that's when it became very real. 1 minute you're racing with somebody on Festina one day, and the next, that night you're watching them on TV in handcuffs.
That's crazy.
In a French police station. So it was pretty eye opening. And that's when, everything definitely went underground for sure.
Well, looking back at that doctor, Tyler, and the first time you doped, do you feel like that doctor, like there was a ethical breach, like he should have had your back more? Do you feel like, do you have any hostility towards that situation that you were put in by him? I know you're an adult, but you're still in a highly pressurized situation as a young adult.
He was just doing his job. That was part of being a doctor back then on a cycling team. And if he didn't do his job, somebody else would have, for sure. So, I've definitely forgiven him. I made that choice. I was an adult at the time. I was a young adult at that time, but I knew the difference between right and wrong. I don't, yeah, he's been forgiven by me for a long time. Yeah. Yeah, it was my own. I knew the difference between right and wrong. As soon as I took that first red testosterone pill, it bothered me. I'd have committee meetings at night. I call them committee meetings at night, stare at the ceiling, usually between like 2 and 3 in the morning. And, you think about the consequences. You think about, it's a huge secret. A lot of us were doing it, and it was like, how's this secret not going to come out? I was like petrified of it. And sure enough, it all happened, But I feel like it was time that the truth needed to come out. I think it helped clean up the sport a lot. I think the sport's in a much better place today because of all of it,
Is there a big leap from taking, and not to trivialize it, from taking an EPO pill, which is just, a testosterone pill, which is just like a small little red egg. It's just like taking, a vitamin, to actually putting an injection into your body and taking an EPO injection. Does that feel like a big leap? Excuse the short interruption. As you can see from the background, I'm over in beautiful sunny Girona, but this isn't my reality. Normally I'm time crunched in Dublin, need to make the most of every single hour. That's why I heavily rely on my watt bike. I love it and I recommend it to you because it just works. There's no 10-minute setup, no unfolding legs, banging my shins off stuff, or wrestling to take a back greasy wheel off. Just jump on and it works. It's also compatible with all the major e-gaming platforms, connects instantly. If you're looking for an indoor trainer, I couldn't recommend it any higher. It's the last indoor trainer you're ever going to need. Head on over to wattbike.com and use the code Roadman10. That's Roadman, TEN, and that's going to knock you 10% off your watt bike today.
Yeah, I mean, it's a needle. It's going, it's going into your skin. Originally, we were doing it right under the skin, not into the vein. And I don't know, it just It felt weird. It felt like another step up. It felt definitely like another step up or 2 steps up from taking an occasional red pill.
There's obviously physical advantages to take in testosterone, EPO, but I think the part that we don't ever hear about is the mental and emotional strain. Can you share a little bit about how this double life affected your mental health, your relationships?
Oh yeah, I mean, it was really hard. It was really, you definitely had 2 lives. You had this, you were known as a professional bike racer, and you had this one side of you, and then you had this big, big, big secret, my wife knew about it at the time. That's it. A few of my teammates, it wasn't like you really spoke about it, at the dinner table there with a team. But a few teammates, my wife. But it I don't know. I grew up, my parents definitely instilled in me that the difference between right and wrong. And, when you do make a wrong, which will happen, you right the ship as quickly as possible and, with your head held on, and you do the right thing. So it just bothered me the whole time from whatever, the spring of 1997, until the end of my career. It bugged me. Having that dual life, didn't like, you had to have 2 faces. You had to have 2 faces. Yeah. And and the whole, and also like cycling is extremely selfish sport. You have to be so focused on yourself, your health, this, that, weight, diet, enough rest. Everything else gets pushed back, right? And all of that can wait till I'm retired. So it's just that extra pressure and the double life. I don't know. I rolled up my sleeves and said, okay, this is how it has to be done. So it has to be done this way. So, okay, so be it, turn my head a little bit and, put these feelings in the back of my head, just keep pushing them back. Just do what you got to do. This is the way the sport is right now. And so be it. You
touched on the 1998 Festina affair. From my understanding, and people I've talked to who doped around the time, this is when doping changed from something that was administered from the teams centrally to teams could no longer take the risk, and now doping became something that each individual rider now was responsible for running their own mini program. You guys had a system where I think it was Armstrong's gardener, if I remember, it was Moto Man that was working. Talk to me about the change from it being team administered to these individual programs. Was that difficult to manage? Did you think about opting out of it at this point, or was it just, I'm in?
Yeah, I went from team administered, fully, they were fully in charge, to then basically them pointing us in the right direction, a little bit from the outside, but you need to take care of it yourself. Yeah. It changed a lot of things, definitely. I mean, the stress level went up another notch for sure. I mean, you had to go pick it up sometimes, wherever that was. And that was a pain, super big pain. I get so nervous doing it. So nervous. I didn't have somebody to go do that for me. No, I don't know. I didn't like it. It felt very, dirty. Yeah. When you had to go do that kind of stuff, or, later in my career when I was blood doping, having to take these secret flights over to Madrid to see this guy who freaked me out off Fuentes. Hated it.
The blood doping became kind of a way to get around the EPO tests, if I remember. EPO tests, they started talking about the possibility to test for EPO at around 2000.
Yeah, in the year 2000, they started talking about it. They talked about it maybe coming to the tour, but definitely for the Olympics. So yeah, before that, there was no EPO test. You could take it 5 minutes before a test and, not a problem. Unfortunately, but yeah. So a test came out. So all of a sudden, the rules of taking EPO via the team doctors, they told you, taking less, we were taking it instead of under the skin subcutaneously, that put it into the vein. Smaller doses straight into the vein would be in your system for less time.
The idea of an evolution of doping, it seems like it went from testosterone, and then as it evolved, it gets more severe, it gets more seedy, it gets more intrusive. So you go from testosterone to now having to inject yourself. You go from having to inject yourself under team supervision to now having to go to these kind of clinics to pick up produce yourself and do it at home. And then the EPO tests come in, and it seems like there's another threshold or line crossed again, because now you're having to fly and getting your blood taken out of you like a vampire and watching it get put back in. That just seems like, I've spoke to athletes on the podcasts and they talked about just that time you had to think when the blood was dripping back into you. That's a lot of self-reflection time in an era without being distracted by Twitter and TikTok on your phone. You're just sitting there thinking about the quality of your decision. Right, that must have been really hard.
Oh, brutal. Whether it was going in or coming out, So same thing when you're taking, or giving a bag of blood. You're just sitting there and like, yeah, what am I doing? Like, it's crazy. It's crazy, yeah. But this all slowly happened. This didn't happen overnight. It was like little small steps. And then, year after year, you get a little bit older and wiser. You learn the system better, and you learn, okay, this is what I need to do to compete. Like, if not, the other guys are doing this. This is what I got to do also. So again, like, roll up the sleeves a little bit more and like just dig in a little bit harder. And, if you got your conscience, just push it in the back of your head.
Is it a relief when you get caught, or is it despair?
Oh man, it was despair. Yeah, life just crashed down, really. Life crashed down. But probably one of the best things that ever happened to me, really, if you go up to 30,000 feet, for sure. But it was hard, from that moment till over, that was 2004, September of 2004 when I had a positive test. Yeah, just over a decade of hard, tough decade of tough, for sure. Yeah, but yeah, it needed to happen. It needed to happen to one of us, for sure. And the truth needed to come out. I fought it. Made it come back. That didn't go well. But you know what? I was committed to go to the grave with these secrets. Like, even though I got caught, I kept my mouth shut. I thought I was doing the right thing. And yeah, when Jeff Davitsky, the FBI agent Jeff Davitsky, when he called me, that was when things changed. And I basically, backed up. It was either to tell the truth or jump, basically.
What do you mean you say jump? Prison?
Yeah, it was. No, basically I backed up, and I was like at the edge of a cliff, and it was either tell the truth or jump. I was like, these were serious stuff. It was serious. I knew a lot of stuff, and that the truth was a massive truth to tell. And the biggest relief I probably ever had in at least one moment or one day or just in a few hours was probably standing in front of the grand jury in Los Angeles, talking to them for like 7 hours. That was probably the biggest relief.
You know what? When I look at that period, Tyler, I can excuse so much of it. I can put myself into that situation, and I can be like, you know what? I actually don't think I would have made decisions that were any different. I think it's difficult to judge from afar and say you would behave differently. And I think a lot of people would have taken the same choices you have. One thing that I really look at and I deplore from that era, specifically, it's like Armstrong's behavior around Emma O'Reilly and the bullying and the trying to discredit her. That was just horrible to see. Was that hard to be a part of that whole circus that happened around the subpoenas and trying to, him protest his innocence in that period?
Yeah, that was a hard time for me, for sure. I think it was a hard time for him as well. Yeah. Lots going on. Yeah. Lance went through a lot of stuff in his, younger life that I didn't know about till just a few years ago. He was bullied himself a lot, by his stepdad, and he went through a lot as a kid. I didn't go through anything like that. So after learning that, it gave me a lot more like empathy towards Lance and maybe towards some of the moves that he made that I know today that he doesn't, he's apologetic for some of those things that he did, but he didn't have the best childhood. He had some rough times for sure. And it gives me at least a little bit more of an understanding on how some of these things could have happened, and how he maybe bulldozed a few people here. Not to say any of it was right, but it just makes me kind of understand and have a little empathy towards him for that.
You still have a relationship with Lance?
Oh man, I haven't talked to him in years, but I support it. I support the guy for sure, and just I don't have any ill will towards him. I've forgiven him myself. I like to see everyone like succeeding. All my old teammates and competitors, like whoever, like, yeah, I'm not rooting against anyone for sure, and Lance included. Years ago I wouldn't have been able to say that. That's for sure. But yeah, I mean, I think he's doing some good things, and it's good to see him still part of cycling a little bit. George, like I saw like the maybe like the recap or something with George, your podcast. That was really cool. I haven't talked to George in years, but it was really nice to hear his voice and just see him and hear how he's doing and hear about him talking about his son, who's a young bike racer in the junior ranks. Who's coming up really fast. That was awesome. Awesome seeing that. But yeah, there was a lot of hurt between all of us, and there was no really book there was no book to, how to profess your doping 101. We all kind of had to figure it out ourselves. And, we all told our truths in other ways, all different kinds of ways.
Something I talked to George about was those 7 Tour de France's that had Lance Armstrong's name on them. Does he still think he's the winner of all 7 of those? I actually do. I think it's a impossible task to look at second place and give the award to him, because I think second place doped. Third place, I think he doped. Fourth place, I think he doped. I don't know how far you have to go down that list to declare a winner of the Tour de France, and it doesn't sit easy with me having no winner for 7 Tour de France's. I think that Armstrong won those Tour de France's because anyone I talk to from that era always says to me, Armstrong won those Tour de France's. What do you think?
I mean, they haven't, right now it's just blank. So until they fill that spot, it's just has names on it.
All your experiences, you faced a range of reactions from the public, from the media, from the cycling community. What was the most challenging aspect of sharing your story?
Oh man. Probably telling my family. I've been lying to them the whole, like I kept the secret as tight as possible, Only those who had to know knew, Other than that, it was, so yeah, telling my family for sure.
What was that conversation like?
Oh, it was pretty rough. Just because, I had to lie to them too, which stunk. It really stunk. And I told them, I kind of waited till the last minute, but it was like right before that 60 Minutes interview aired. So it was, I think it was like maybe 2012 or something, 11. I can't remember exactly, but yeah, it was hard, told my mom, dad, and my brother and sister all at the same time. That was hard. But yeah, there was a lot of rough, but they also forgave me pretty quick that, I told them when you tell the story from the very beginning to the very end, a lot of people can understand how it might have happened, for sure. The sport wasn't very well regulated in the 90s, that's for sure. Andy Hampsten said, like, I felt bad for those guys who were just starting out, and he and I were teammates in 1996, his last year as a professional, and I was just basically starting. And I think he secretly felt bad for us because he knew what we were getting into, or like about to dive into, I guess. So yeah. Not the best time in the world to be a professional bike racer at the world tour level. Let's just put it that way. I was having a good old time racing here in the States. I I was having a blast.
What year do you think it started,
races,
Tyler?
tons of races, we had tons of prize money, which was great. And then, I don't know, back then I loved doing the criteriums, I was pretty good at them back then. But yeah.
What year do you reckon the doping started, Tyler?
What's that?
What year do you reckon the doping started? Le Mans thinks it was around 92. For the high octane stuff I'm talking about, your EPOs, testosterons.
Oh, I heard it came out in like the late 80s. I heard like 89 or something. But I don't know. Who knows?
Interesting.
But yeah, there's sorts of doping. They were doping in the 80s, 70s. Yeah.
Yeah, they've been
just
doping.
Different stuff.
I had a master's thesis for my law degree, and I traced some of the origins of doping. Like gladiators were doping back in the Colosseum, fighting each other back in the day. Anything for an edge.
What a catch. Roadman, you know how serious I take my goal setting, and I know how serious you take it too. So whether you're chasing fitness or lifestyle goals, and you're looking for a powerful ally to support you on this journey, look no further than Huel. Huel has become my secret weapon for when I don't have time to prepare a balanced meal. It means I get the nutrition I need without sacrificing time or taste. Plus, it stops me from reaching for the takeaway menu. I always throw a bottle of this banana into my backpack when I'm heading into the city, and it stops me eating junk convenience foods that don't support my training goals. It's handy, it's nutritious, it's 22 grams of protein. It's perfect for athletes that don't have time to cook or prepare food before a training session. It's convenient, nutritious fuel at your fingertips, ensuring you hit your daily fueling needs. Huel Ready to Drink has over 26 essential vitamins and minerals in every bottle, making sure you get 175 health benefits. Plus, it's made from amazing natural ingredients like sunflower seed, coconut, and more. And the best part, 8 mouth-watering flavours. My favourite's the banana. That's what's in my backpack at the moment. You can get Huel direct to your home by going to huel.com/roadman. That's Huel, HUEL.com/roadman.
It's cutthroat. It's such a hard sport. That's the problem. So hard. Hardest sport in the world. For sure. And no one wants to dope. Just you have really good controls. We just need really, really good controls. So it's not even a possibility. It's not even a thought. So that's why it's really important not to forget what happened, and let's support all the anti-doping authorities. Let's make sure they get enough funding, all that, so we can keep the sport clean and heading in the right path. And maybe cycling can be like a leader in the term of clean sport. Why not? Why not? We've been through it. So, many different times, because it's such a hard sport. Yeah, people have been cutting corners, like myself.
What advice would you give to young athletes who are facing a similar moral dilemma to the one you faced that day on the bed when the team doctor came in and said, "Hey, you're taking this for your health"? What advice would you give them if you could whisper in their ear?
I would just say, hey, at the very, very least, take some time to think about it before you just say yes. You don't have to people please. I people please and just yes, sir. You've been working in this sport for the last 10 years. You've worked with big champions. You tell me to do this. Like you sit, I'll sit. I need to clap, I'll clap. Whatever. But no, take your time. These are big decisions. So take a step back, think about it. And if you take a step back and think about it, you're going to make the right choice. You're going to make the right choice, which is not doing it, staying clean. So take some time, go for a walk, do whatever you have to do, but take some time and think about it. Think about what I went through. Think about what, lots of us went through.
Are we going to see you at a gravel race anywhere in the US next year?
Oh, I don't think, maybe on the sideline. Yeah. Cheering on people. Yeah. Yeah. I still have a coaching business. And so I still work with some athletes, and that's a lot of fun. Yeah. I go to a race every once in a while. My 2 stepsons, they race cross, and they race mountain bikes. Yep. So I go to little races once in a while. It's fun. I'll pin a number on. Well, you and I can race. We can race on let's race on the Wild Atlantic Way.
When are you coming?
There in Ireland. Oh, I don't know. I don't know. It might be a few years. I got a little guy now, so
bring him.
Maybe with the trailer. I ride these days. I ride with a trailer with a flag on the back. That's my life. That's my life.
Tyler, it's great to see you doing so well. Great to see you looking so healthy, so happy, and so willing to share your story. Because I think unless we keep these stories relevant, unless we tell the new generation the missteps that we made, they're just going to be repeated again and again.
Yeah. Well, thanks, Anthony. And it's really nice to see Untold coming out of the woods and doing a lot better, right? And he didn't get a whole lot of support for a long time, and he didn't start doping. He wasn't the first one to dope, or he went through the ringer. It's really nice to see him doing better. It's nice to see he and Lance connecting. That's awesome. And I think he's got a lot to give back to the sport if they allow it. But we're lucky. And we're missing some individuals. Frank Vanderbroek, Marco Pantani, Jimenez from Spain. They're not around anymore. So, it's tough when when you make a wrong choice like we did, and then the road can be really rough, especially if you don't have the right support system. So, yeah, I feel very lucky, and very grateful. Obviously incredibly, sorry for the mistakes I made and all that. But yeah, I've had to move on. I've had to forgive myself for it all and just move on. Forgive everyone. Yeah. And just move on. Yeah. I mean, life's a lot better when you forgive. But not to forget, right? These are serious things. So I'm always happy to share stories, and I do try to talk to young kids a lot about how things can go wrong if you kind of leave that window open.
Well, I think they can go wrong in because a lot of people are listening to this podcast, Tyler, and they're like, okay, I'm not a pro cyclist. I'm never going to be faced with this ethical dilemma. But it's no different than fudging your sales numbers. It's no different than, filing a fraudulent tax report. Once you step across the line a little bit, there's no a little bit. You're across the line or you're not across the line. And once you step across that line, it becomes easier to justify any other conduct on the far side of that line now. One bad decision could snowball into multiple bad decisions.
Yeah. Yeah, some great lessons learned just for life. Yeah, you can put what we went through in so many different aspects of life and kind of compare it. Yeah. And if you start going down that road, the wrong road, it's not too late to stop and do the right thing. I wish I'd made that choice, even a year or two down the road, which kind of at that point seemed like I was so far down the road, but really I wasn't. I could have, but I didn't, I guess, my defense might be, the sport wasn't very condoning to go clean, I guess, at that time. Let's just put it that way. But yeah, I mean, I knew what I was doing was wrong. Yeah. That's why it dug at me for a long time. Yeah.
Tyler, thanks for chatting. Let's catch up again soon.
Yeah. Hey, good to see you, man. Fist bump.
Boom.
So if you like this video, you should definitely check out this video because I know you're going to love it. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel.